Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our interview with Rick Song. Rick is a CEO and co-founder at Persona, which is an identity infrastructure company for real-time verification and protection. Noticing a fundamental problem in the identity verification space, such as a manual verification of identities, leaving personally identifiable information at risk of identity theft and fraud, Rick created Persona in 2018 to address the long-standing issue. And with the general population increasingly using the internet to manage all aspects of their lives, it's more important than ever to protect customers from identity theft and fraud, especially as one data breach can cause massive financial and reputation and damage to a brand. Rick, thank you for coming to our interview today.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here and tell you a bit more about Persona and what we've been up to.
Absolutely. So with your background, I believe we can have a really thoughtful conversation about identity fraud. Rick, can you tell us a short story about your unique path in the space? And we interviewed many companies in this space, including Jumio, Trulio, to name a few. Why there was a need for your solution?
Yeah, well, I can start off with a little bit about my background. So prior to Persona, I was an engineer at Square for about half a decade. And during that time there, really spent a lot of time focusing on identity verification and all the challenges around identity. At Square, I think it was a very, very unique opportunity at that business as well, because for Square, we didn't focus on identity from a single lens. We saw from many different purviews, anywhere from a KYC compliance perspective for onboarding merchants for payment processing, trust and safety for Caviar, where we were effectively onboarding couriers for food delivery, and even fraud prevention as we moved into lending and through Square Capital. And I think one core thing that we really found was that there are a lot of one size fits all type of approaches, people promising that, with this database verification, with this form of identity verification, that this would be the silver bullet towards solving the identity challenge. And there are, I think, a lot of tools out there, which were really more so focused in the identity space around access management, authentication, login, especially around our digital identities. But what we really found kind of a lack of within the industry was around identity infrastructure for real personal information, about who we are in the physical world. And in particular, that would be anything from collecting sensitive personal information, verifying the individual, make sure they are who they say they are, governing that data and orchestrating it to make real-time decisions about whether someone should have access to a service or not. So while Square, all the challenges manifest in all problems that we were trying to focus on and tackle. And I think one thing that we really found was that this one size fits all approach, this belief that, there's a single way to really verify individuals was an anachronism. It was really falling out of practice, especially because for every single use case, there are just different requirements. This balance of conversion, fraud, the demographic you're trying to target, the type of people that you're trying to authenticate and verify. And not only that, we're starting to see that even at the individual level, individuals, if you're a recent immigrant who doesn't have an SSN, if you are someone whose identity has been leaked 10 times, that the verification that, the flow that you should go through to make sure that you're both protected, but at the same time still able to be yourself online should be different. So what we're really seeing is one, this trend towards tailoring the experience for each use case in every individual kind of business. And the second is actually even personalizing the experience for the individual themselves. So for Persona, what we really found, and our core belief is that there is not a one size fits all, but rather what we offer to companies are building blocks to enable them to mix and match and build the ideal identity experience for their customers that really allows them to tailor it to their own business and personalize it to every individual going through it, enables them to collect a variety of information to make sure they're making the best decisions in the fastest way possible.
Yeah, fantastic. So you probably collect a lot of data in your process. How is it compliant with the privacy regulations such as GDPR, TCPA, and others?
I mean, honestly, I think there's been a huge evolution in the regulatory climate, and honestly, a very positive one, as much of the world now has realized the importance and the criticality of the data that so many of these organizations are collecting. And for us, we also believe that the challenge around managing this data is more complex than ever. As you mentioned before, GDPR has incredibly strict and onerous kind of requirements for how a business has to manage this data. So one unique aspect about Persona is that not only are we helping businesses verify individuals, we're also helping them stay compliant. Many of our customers actually trust us as their central repository for all the personal information collected and leverage our platform to make decisions. So that way, all of the personal information never really touches their infrastructure whatsoever. The ability to do this means that we have a huge amount of emphasis on making sure that we're storing the data in a proper privacy-centric and compliant way for all of our customers. We make sure that we enable them to set up retention policies to wipe this data whenever possible, whenever needed, and also even comply with a variety of regulations. For example, the Illinois biometric law to the numerous retention requirements for so many different states and countries now.
I would like to hear your personal opinion. What is the commonly held belief in the identity verification field or a biggest misconception that you strongly disagree with?
I think the biggest misconception is that this all-in-one / one-size-fits-all approach is the right way to really tackle this problem. And what I mean by this is I think more and more today, we're seeing folks kind of layer on many, many different forms of identity verification, and all of which I think are powerful in their own right, but really stifling for the end user, oftentimes causing additional friction or leading to additional drop-off or just too much noise to actually make the right assessment. And what we're really kind of lacking is this idea of almost personalization for the individual, really taking into account who the individual is and adapting the entire experience around the individual themselves. So I think, rather than these like bespoke, kitchen sink based all-in-one type of approaches, we believe that the future of identity verification will actually be much more personal, where depending if your data has been breached versus if you're a recent immigrant, that the entire experience adapts to you to make sure that you kind of have a tailored experience that makes the most sense for the exact flow you're trying to go through, the business's use case, and the individual's, own risk preferences and the tolerances that they may have. And I think that really will be the future of identity, is that there's no longer going to be these silver bullet type of approaches. Today, we oftentimes see document, government IDs, selfies, biometrics as kind of a new form of identity verification. But with how quickly technology is evolving, things like deepfakes to otherwise, we believe that this space can continue to evolve and kind of adapt. And what more businesses need than ever before is kind of an entire platform, a platform building blocks that enables them to constantly stay up to date and seamlessly be able to adapt as the identity ecosystem and landscape evolves.
Fantastic. So, for example, if we take a life of a risk manager, if there is one thing that they should start doing right now that they are not doing, what would it be?
I think more so than ever, they need to start accounting for essentially dynamic risk, enabling every individual to kind of have that tailored experience depending on what they're seeing through the flow. I think today what we're seeing a lot of is people, like every single individual, going through the exact same experience, and the final step, we're seeing kind of, businesses make a final decision. But we're actually seeing a lot of these innovative companies really take an approach where, depending on every single action the individual takes, putting them through different experiences to both maximize conversion and minimize the fraud that the individual would otherwise encounter. And for us, I think that that's really the number one thing that we believe that risk managers really need to start thinking about, is not only thinking about the final decision, but rather tailoring that experience throughout the entire flow to the individual.
Mm. So if you formulate this question another way around, for example, what should they stop doing right now that they are doing currently from your point of view?
I think it's fundamentally treating every customer as if they're the same, putting every one of them through that exact same experience. That, again, so the idea of like one size fits all really will not be the future. How I oftentimes like to kind of like more humanize this problem would be, when you sign up for a lot of these services today, whether I am a, Brad Pitt or, George Clooney versus if you're Rick Song and, just a relatively unknown individual, everyone, I'm going through the exact same experience as them. And that's insane, given that, I'm relatively unknown. Little of my personal information is out there. You really can't construct a deep fake of me, at least yet, with the available information out there. Whereas, for someone like Brad Pitt, so much is out there, so much about them. And the risk and the simplicity of actually like taking over such an identity, it's really critical that flow takes that into account and makes sure that, for someone with lower risk versus higher risk, their identities are both protected while at the same time we're going through the most seamless experience possible.
Mm-hmm. You're definitely a young startup, and I wonder, how do you find the clients? What is your main process? Is it outbound, inbound, word of mouth, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the earliest days, of course, it's outbound, right? Like no one has ever heard of us in our first couple of customers. But what's been really exciting for us as a business has been, I mean, these days it's almost all inbound. Word of mouth has been a huge thing,
Oh.
as well as referrals. We're incredibly grateful for the partners that we work with and the amazing feedback they've given us. And I think oftentimes one of the things that many of our customers consistently highlight about us as a business is that we operate more as a partner than a vendor. We deeply understand the kind of challenges that they're going through, understand their business. Don't treat them as if, again, they're this one size fits all business, because we also don't believe identity should be one size fits all, and really treat them as if understanding exactly the requirements around their business to build and tailor our platform to their business. So I think that's caused a tremendous spike of kind of inbound volume for us, which has been really, really exciting. To be quite honest with you, we're trying our best to kind of keep up with customer demand.
Mm. So maybe without dropping the names, it will be interesting to know what you or your team have recently achieved that you are really proud of. How does it work in real life?
I think a couple of things that we're really proud of is, honestly, one of the things I'm most proud of is actually how diverse the use cases and the types of businesses that we work with, from outdoorsy to Postmates, from Rippling to a hip camp. We work with so many businesses and so many kind of different verticals, and all of whom who face really, really unique challenges. And each one of them really battle test our system to make sure that not only are we solving their problem, but solving the best possible way. To build a system that's so dynamic and making sure that all the building blocks there can really work together in a seamless way that can be adapted to the business experience and still also tailored to the individual, I think that's really challenging. And frankly, for us, we're really proud of the platform that we've built.
Mm. So interesting. I'm running the global risk community. We have a social platform for risk managers, and also always I see people sign up just funny names. Probably I can see that they are not the ones that they pretend to be. So can you explain why every business needs identity verification services, especially now after we emerge after the COVID era? And probably can every business afford this service? Because we are kind of, as a small business, we have 50 new, almost every day, 50 new accounts. But can we afford such a kind of solution like yours?
Well, I would say there's a couple of things. First off, COVID has absolutely accelerated the number of transactions moving online and just pushed the digital economy forward and the digital transformation forward in a very, very rapid pace. And I think as part of this digital transformation, we're seeing, more offline transactions move online. And with that, the notion of like who you are offline matters more so than ever before, who you are behind the screen. I think historically, we've oftentimes thought about identity as purely kind of a authentication mechanism, making sure that, you can kind of have access to a service. But today, if you're placing a stock trade versus if you're signing up to be a courier, if you are finding your next home to visiting, or even like getting an online degree, for all these different use cases, these aren't ones where it's about, oh, I'm like this digital identity. It's more so than ever about who am I behind the screen? Am I this individual? And I think for all of these businesses, identity is going to be incredibly important. I mean, for us, we've definitely seen this transformation happen firsthand. Given the importance and the prevalence of needing to know who people are behind the screen, one thing that I think really also distinguishes Persona is our emphasis on automation. And I think we think about automation both from the perspective of it's more privacy centric. If you are on Persona, we aren't like, there's not some human in a foreign country looking at your identity, analyzing and trying to make this this manual decision of are you who you say you are. Instead, everything's passing through a machine. We put a lot of emphasis on making sure that this decisioning process is both seamless, but also not biased, to make sure that anyone has access through the entire experience. The second piece is also, by embracing automation, we can enable more businesses than before to gain access to this to these amazing services. So, for smaller businesses, ones who can't afford to, build an entire team to actually verify identities, our automated system enables them to get access at a far lower price. And one thing I think that's really exciting about us, and in particular for us who's trying to really forward this digital transformation of identity online, we're actually the first solution out there with a fully free solution for 500 free identity verifications for any business out there. So, if you're doing less than 500 a month, you can sign up for us. And yeah, you can actually get started immediately. And for many startups, this is a huge kind of a boon for them, given that now they can really start embracing and making sure that individuals on their platform are authentic with minimal amounts of effort. So yeah, for your business, absolutely. I mean, if you consider signing up, it's free.
Fantastic. Yeah. So let's finalize. If someone who is listening to this interview would like to walk away with one or two takeaways, what that would be from your point of view?
Well, I think that one, Persona is the first platform that really adapts to your business, not the other way around. It enables you to treat every customer in a personal and individual, as if they're individuals in a personalized sense. Whereas today, I think much of the ecosystem is much more about, hey, here's this process, and this is a one size fits all. We have a lot of different random features, but we're going to put everyone through the same thing. Persona is the first that really enables businesses to tailor it to their business. And the second is we are the most friendly for any new business out there. If you're a startup and you want to get started without having to incur a huge financial cost, Persona is free. 500 free verifications every single month. If you have less than 500 users signing up, get started right now. And you'll have access to some of the most advanced kind of verification techniques that businesses like Brex, like Square, like Postmates are using today to verify couriers, to verify lenders, and verify startups as well.
Fantastic. And just what are the major trends in identity verification space, and what will we expect from you guys in the future?
Honestly, I think one of the biggest trends is the complex interplay between a lot of these new regulations like GDPR, like CCPA, like a lot more of these privacy regulations, and how to continue to preserve privacy while at the same time making sure individuals are who they say they are. I think that trend is going to be increasingly important because a lot of forms of identity verification can be a tad invasive. So how do you ensure you embrace automation to make sure that every individual's personal information is protected and secure? So for us, I think that's going to be a really critical trend. As for us, we don't just help businesses verify individuals, we also help them govern this information and use it in a responsible way. And I think that for a lot of the identity verification space, we're really going to see these two kind of collide. And I think done right, it can be a huge benefit for businesses to manage both the verification and the governance of personal information. And I think, the second thing that we are really seeing as an overall trend for identity verification as a whole is the rise of AI, especially around, like anywhere from deepfakes to a more complex fraud, means that there's not going to be kind of a silver bullet anymore. Like biometrics, document verification is just no longer going to be sufficient. What we believe actually is going to be future is kind of like, very, very multifaceted approach towards how to actually allow an individual to be who they say they are. And this would be a combination of both active techniques. Many of these active techniques could be things like, verifying a phone number, verifying information against public available records, checking a document or a biometric, and combining that with a lot of passive behavioral signals. Like, is this person, behaving in a risky manner? Are they coming from a risky network? Has this device been flagged before? And enabling businesses to not just think about identity from a single perspective, but rather a 360 kind of degree view of who is this individual and what are the risks that we're taking them on. So I think this is going to be really one of the more exciting trends for us of this evolution from silver bullet based approach from, the evolution of SSNs to documents to everything else, to really kind of like a very holistic type of identity and making sure that individuals are who they say are from as many different perspectives as possible.
Fantastic. So that were all my questions. Maybe if I forgot something, do you have something to add?
Nothing off the top of my mind, but I just want to really kind of conclude this by thanking you so much for taking the time to speak with us. It's been a really exciting journey for us, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to share it with you.
Thank you. I wish your company a high growth and hope to hear from you guys in the future.
Likewise.
Thank you.